Okay, so today we're going to talk about a life cycle diagram. In this case, it's the life cycle of a honeybee. So you might get this thing on task 1. So how do you approach it? What would be your way to deal with this, Navin?
I would follow the similar format that we have been discussing. I will start with the picture shows or illustrates the life cycle of honeybee, which starts from the stage of egg and gradually matures to form an adult honeybee.
So it would be a great strategy for this kind of process diagram. In your overview, you would just mention, for example, the number of stages, and then describe the first and the final stage, and that's it. But then how would you group this? Because you're not going to do 6 body paragraphs. How would you group this stuff together into maybe, let's say, 2 body paragraphs if you can do it?
We can say from egg to larva, or egg to pupa, and pupa to adult.
Okay, so I think we're on the right track now. What would be the first stage? So it would be
larva.
Egg to larva, and that's roughly half the cycle, right? And then we've got pupa to adult. So no need to overthink this one. That's a very easy way to group this, and that's going to work. Okay. For this kind of diagram, one of the challenges can often be to actually reach the word count. You need to incorporate all the details that are there to increase the number of words in your description. We got to be quite thorough to reach that word count comfortably. Okay, so, and we've gotten to the best way to group this, which is from egg to larva, and then from pupa to adult. Okay. In terms of the verb tense, as you're writing, keep in mind that this is a life cycle. There's no time information. Therefore, this needs to be in
Simple present.
Simple present, the whole thing. Okay, very easy in that sense. So all the steps that we talked about, I've summarized them here. Okay. One thing I also want to remind you of, when you need to, just for better cohesion, for better organization, to make it more reader friendly, I'm a big fan of having general introductory sentences for body paragraphs. Okay, and the paragraph intro sentence is basically half of your general overview. This eases in to that main idea. So if this paragraph is going to be about the egg and the larva stages, that's all you need to tell the reader in this introductory sentence. And then the next body paragraph is going to be about the pupa and adult stages. And again, in the intro sentence, it's half your overview, and that's all you need to tell the reader in that sentence. Very, very reader friendly. Okay, let's do our introductory sentence, starting with the context. So for the context, we're going to just paraphrase the prompt. And as usual, I suggest that you paraphrase it chunk by chunk. So we've got a very typical subject, verb, object sentence structure. The diagram below is your subject, shows as the verb, the life cycle of a worker honeybee. That's the object. Okay. You can always start this as the illustration depicts. Okay, and I'll let you finish this sentence in the chat. Give you like a minute or 2 to do it. The illustration depicts the process a bee get through to becoming a complete insect. Okay, the illustration depicts the process a bee. We need a different verb. What else collocates with through? Starts with G. What other common G verb collocates with through?
Goes.
That's it. And it's third person singular, so it needs to be go through or goes through.
Goes through.
Illustration of expressly goes through. When becoming a complete insect. Well, it is complete from start to finish, so this is not the right word.
Develops.
Okay. So it's kind of, so what's our verb going to be? Becoming a developed insect. Is there like a more concise way we can describe that process?
When is becoming.
2 words.
During.
I think you're reading my mind.
During maturing.
During maturation.
Maturation.
That would be a really concise way of putting it. And one word that we have to add. What do you notice that's in the description provided that's missing from what you've written here? It's a minor but important detail.
Honeybee.
What kind of honeybee?
Worker.
Yeah. I would just keep that from the original. Okay, let's check out this one. Stages in. Okay. Okay. What's missing here?
Dog.
Good.
Life cycle of the life cycle of a worker.
Okay, very good.
I'm missing a and the frequently.
Mm-hmm. Always read out loud. That's one way that can help you at least a little bit. All right, these are good. Let's move on to the overview. We want it to be not too general and not too specific. So for this kind of life cycle diagram, for many cycles, whether it's an industrial process, energy process, you could use something like this quite often. The life cycle of whatever you're talking about includes however many stages that take place over how much time, starting with step A and ending with step B. Okay, this is a template that you can remember for any kind of diagram like this. Okay. Now, obviously, it has to match the first sentence that you wrote for the context. You can adapt it as needed. But if you want a nice, complete overview, this is what you would put in it. Okay, I'll give you a couple minutes to, you can use this, or you can change it a bit depending on what you've done before. Navin, you've got one word that shouldn't be there.
The.
Overall.
Right. In this case, we have to get rid of the because for is already specific.
Okay.
The is like pointing a finger at something. It's something specific. So if you have other language that indicates the fact that we have 4 stages instead of 3 or 5, you don't need the in front of it usually.
Okay.
Okay, good. Okay, very nice. You're missing punctuation and you're missing one preposition. Punctuation and a preposition.
Generally speaking, comma
Bingo.
takes
21 days for Honeybee to complete.
That's it. It takes 21 days for a honeybee to complete its metamorphosis. Another construction would be like this. It takes a honeybee 21 days to complete its metamorphosis. Let's say you've got a lot of paperwork to fill out. Let's say it takes you 3 days to complete that paperwork. So you would say, it takes 3 days for me to complete this paperwork. It takes 3 days for me to complete this paperwork. The other way would be, it takes me 3 days to complete this paperwork. Okay, so you've got these 2 different constructions, one with 4, one without, depending on the order. Okay, let's read through a model response. Okay. The illustration depicts a worker honeybee's life cycle. Overall, it can be clearly seen that this natural process consists of 4 stages that take place over 21 days, starting with the queen laying an egg in a single cell and ending with the adult honeybee emerging from the cell. The first 2 stages consist of the egg and larva stages. In the first step, every day the queen bee produces roughly 1,500 eggs, each of which is placed in its own cell in a vertical position. On day 3, each egg transforms into a larva. Over the next 6 days, the larva's skin is shed 3 times. During this period, larvae are given food 150 to 800 times daily and increase in size exponentially, growing 1,500 times larger. On the 9th day, the last day of the larva stage, the cell is sealed with beeswax and larvae surround themselves in a cocoon. The next 2 stages comprise the pupa and adult stages. The 10th day is the beginning of the pupa stage, during which pupae do not consume any food. On the 14th day in the cycle, 5 days after the pupa stage begins, the pupae develop eyes, legs, and wings. On day 18, hairs on the body form. Finally, on day 21, the adult bee breaks through the beeswax cap and leaves the cell, able to fly. Okay, any questions about this one?
I noticed that anyway you are adding a lot of expressions that are not in the original illustration. For example, able to fly is because you have a previous background. You can include your background.
No, because I can see it in the picture because it's flying away.
Yes, sure. Yeah, you're right.
And it says it leaves here, and then the picture shows the bee flying away. So that's the only reason I added that.
Yeah, okay, I got it.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. Don't include any background knowledge for this kind of exercise, this kind of task. I said increase in size exponentially. is another way of describing something that gets 1,500 times larger.